Peace and blessing, family. It's your man Maarifa, and welcome to another Maarifa moment where knowledge is reborn. Are you ready? Well, let's go. All right, yeah, we black. It's your man Maarifa Black yet again with another great video, man. I know I've been gone for a minute, but I am black. You heard me? We black with a great topic for today. We're gonna be talking about Black Europe. That's right, Black Europe. A lot of people got a misconception and misunderstanding of what Europe really is because they see what Europeans are today, but it wasn't always that way. We'll get deeper into it as we go into our topic for today. But dig, before we do all that, you know how we got to do it. We got to get these admin notes out the way. So check it out. You see this banner right here. You know what it is. We need you to like, subscribe, follow, and share all of our social media platforms at where? Maarifa Sar LLC. That's right. Go over to Maarifa Sar LLC. Subscribe to all our channels. We on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We on Twitter, everything. You dig? YouTube. Subscribe right now to this channel so you can get notified whenever we drop a new video. So that way you'll know exactly when you won't miss a Maarifa moment. You know what I'm saying? So second thing we need you to do, rush over right after this video is over. Go over there and get you some fly and fresh gear to maarifasar.com. Bam! Go to maarifasar.com. Check me out. Listen, I'm looking fly. You look at these fly melanated beings you see right here on this screen. Boom, they looking fly already and fresh. You dig? You need to look fresh and fly too and rep the culture. You know what I'm saying? Go over to get you some fly and fresh. Get some for your friends. Get some for your loved ones at maarifasar.com. Dig. So now that we got that out the way, are you ready for the lesson for today? Well, let's go. All right, let's get into our lesson, man. Black Europe. All right, so we all know and understand that, Africans have populated all over the globe and all over the planet, and Europe was no, exception to that. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of misunderstanding of what, you know, African influence had in Europe. Okay. So if you notice here that the distance between Africa and Europe is not that far. The Strait of Gibraltar, you can just go straight on across, you know what I'm saying, the Mediterranean Sea, and you right there, on that landmass in Europe. You can actually see it from Africa. If you're standing in Africa, you can look over and you can see the landmass is not that far of a distance at all. All right. So you can tell the migration of the African was all over. You know what I'm saying? We've been doing, if you've been following us on this journey with these Maarifa moments in African studies, we've been going through the migration of the African people that are going out all over the globe. Okay. North, south, east, and west. So the African was going into different lands and populating those regions and starting civilizations and doing great things. Okay. Cultivating the land, gathering resources, all type of good stuff. You know what I'm saying? All over the planet. Because the African was the first original on the planet. Now, when people think of Europe, they think of these, white Europeans. You know what I'm saying? And they actually have this misconception that they've always been, in Europe from day one, which is a lie, absolute lie. You know what I'm saying? So they have this image that's been put up like this, British royal family or whatever, you know what I'm saying, so-called royal family. But that's another topic for another day. But they have this misconception of these Europeans because they conquered and they won the battles, they were able to put in history whatever they wanted to, you know what I'm saying, and tell the story to the next generation. All right. So they project themselves as being, ancient and old than what they really are. You know what I'm saying? But they will not associate and affiliate, no one will, that black people were the first in Europe. Okay. These are the bones of the Romanian man, you know what I'm saying? And they found them in Romania. You can't find any bone structures that are older than Africans on the planet. You know what I'm saying? You can't find any European structures on the planet that are older than Africans. So you see all over the world, pretty much the different, influences that the Africans had in every part of the world. You know what I'm saying? Even Russia, Asia, Europe, Italy, we had Romania, Australia, the Americas. we've already done these videos already. You know what I'm saying, with the Maarifa moments, and we discussed India, the presence of the African there, the Asian African presence in Africa. We've discussed, the Olmecs in America. You know what I'm saying? We already talked about the Nile Valley culture, the Africans. So go back and check out those Maarifa moment videos, on our channel, Maarifa Sar LLC, and go and see those videos, and you'll see, what I'm saying, exactly what I'm talking about. But the migration occurred, and the black woman is pretty much the first inhabitant of the world, of the planet, and she gave birth to all of these different phenotypes. She gave birth to every human race on the planet. Okay, so the black woman should be revered. A lot of people say the black woman is God, but that's not to say that she's the creator of all the universe. But what she is she has an aspect of God, where she's able to create every human phenotype possible, from the darkest of darkest all the way to the whitest of whitest. Okay, the black woman is capable of doing that. And you tell this is very important because there were three mutations that occurred with the black woman throughout time. Okay, the first mutation occurred was the African male. All right, came out with the elongated clitoris, the stronger bone structure, you know what I'm saying, and the reduced breast. All right, so the African male was the very first mutation that the African woman created. All right, the second mutation that occurred with the African woman was the mongoloid, with the slanted eyes. All right, the slanted eyes, we call that the Asian. The mongoloid bone structure and the Asian, pretty much from the Khoisan, that was the second mutation that occurred, through the black woman. The last and third final mutation that occurred was the Caucasian, the albino. All right, so from the albino came the Caucasian. All right, so you're looking at during those time frames with which that occurred, the differences with, the African woman, and she's able to create all phenotypes: the straight hair, the broad nose, the woolly hair. You know what I'm saying? She can create blue eyes, brown eyes. She can create the slantiness of the eyes. She can create the broadening of the nose, the pointiness of the nose. The black woman has the DNA structure to create all phenotypes on the planet of humanity. And you can tell right here, this is a great description, or depiction rather, of a dark-skinned young black boy with blue eyes. Okay, so that's a character trait that she has in her. And here you see this family. This is a dark-skinned African family who had gave the black woman gave birth to a white baby. Okay, with straight blonde hair, and you can see right there, and we call that oculine cutaneous, OCA. Okay, so you can look up oculine cutaneous, Google that, OCA 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can tell, the science behind, the DNA structure of the capability of the black woman. All right. So the albino had came through, and that's how, the white Europeans were created during the Ice Age. And going through that period, the white European albino was created, and after that albinos were created, and then they started mating with one another, having more and more babies, and they grew in numbers, so much so that they started, to conquer different parts of the world. All right, and they had aspirations of conquest. So they had this Aryan invasion. So the Aryans were the name in which, they gave to the white Europeans, the descendants. These are their ancestors. You know what I'm saying? The Aryans, which come out, from the Georgia mountains near Russia, the Caucasus mountains near Turkey and Kazakhstan, and they came out of those northern cold regions, from the albinism, came out of those ice age regions down south to take over. You know what I'm saying? So you could tell the migration that they had coming from that region into the Indus Valley, mixing in with that the African people of the Indus Valley, the Ethiopian African with the straight hair, and creating a whole nother race called the Persians. Okay, and then later on the Arab, but we'll get into that in another video. All right, so you see Alexander the Greek. Alexander the Greek, ain't nothing great about this dude, not at all. He was a conqueror, barbaric, conquering trader that, went on and created and killed, a lot of Africans, and took over territories in Iraq area, in the Indus Valley, in over into Greece, and even into, what I'm saying, northern Africa and Egypt. All right, so this conqueror, Alexander, white European from Macedonia, which is north of Greece, pretty much conquered in onto the region. So his story is pretty much known, and the white Europeans will always give you his story and depict it, but they won't let you know what really happened, during history. All right, so the Africans were pretty much the Greeks who, were Africans from, they were seafaring people, that were descendants of the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians were pretty much along that coastline that you see right there, the Mediterranean Sea, going up into Syria and right along that coastline. But there's a little small island called Crete. Crete right there, right in the middle, right above Greece. There's a little right in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. Crete is a little island right there. That's where Africans had, migrated to and populated into that area. They were called the Minoans. All right. So the Minoans right here, seafaring, Africans and stuff like that, who were fishermen and stuff like that. They lived in that region. They lived in Crete, but they were the first ones who were the original Greeks. Okay, so they had a king called Minos, or I don't know how you pronounce it, Minos or Minos, but they had found on Crete, the island, the throne in which, or not the throne, but the castle in which, the king had stayed. So they preserved it. That's right on Crete. So you have these structures that were created by, these Minoans. You know what I'm saying? So you have these carvings and things of that nature, and it will show you, the art pieces and of the African features that you'll see. And then on the pottery of the Greeks, they'll show and depict stories about the Africans on their pottery that you can still find in the British Museum today. All right, the British Museum has a lot of these artifacts, and they stole a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? They put it in these museums, and you can go over to the British Museum and see them. You know what I'm saying? Now, one of the Greek mythologies and that was very popular is the one of Memnon. Memnon was, one of the Ethiopian warrior kings, and he was very venerated in the Greek mythology pantheon. Memnon, had killed Achilles. Oh no, no, not Achilles, but Achilles killed Memnon in the Greek mythology. So if you know the Greek mythology story, you'll know that Memnon had, killed a lot of Greek soldiers in the Battle of Troy. But then they all went to Achilles and told him, "Hey, man, this great warrior has done, great things against our people. You need to go ahead and battle him and woo woo woo." And then they had Memnon, fighting Achilles, and Achilles had killed Memnon, according to the Greek mythology. But you know what I'm saying? That's the mythological story. But they depict that story on their pottery. Okay, so you'll see that Memnon, the Ethiopian king, he was the rival to Achilles. Okay, so there you can see they had his, depiction as a warrior on their pottery. So their Greek mythology is all throughout. Another great and mighty powerful African was Hannibal Barca, around 181 BCE. He was a great general, king, you know what I'm saying, out of Carthage, and he had done battle with the Romans, you know what I'm saying? So he had, this military, structure in which he was able to defeat and take advantage of the weaknesses of his enemy. And he had took his forces, his military forces, into Italy, crossed into Europe, and he did battle with the Romans and defeated the Romans in Europe. You know what I'm saying? So, you could tell his presence was great, because he had his own coinage that you could see with the elephant on it on the back, and then his face depicted on the front, using that as a means for trade. You know what I'm saying? Resources back and forth as a term of currency. So Hannibal Barca, was very great and had a lot of conquering conquest in Europe. You know what I'm saying? So you could tell his historical, structures and his story still lives on to this day. the Romans tried to take it and use him as a white European figure. They mistold the story, but the African structures is still there. So a lot of his techniques with the elephants and things of that nature cannot be denied. So it was clearly an African. You know what I'm saying? They tried to say that he was a white European, but why would a white European from Carthage, which is in Africa, go and fight into Europe, their own countrymen? So it didn't make any sense. So they're trying to steal the story of Hannibal because he was such a great and mighty, powerful warrior and general and king that, he had caused a lot of destruction in Europe to the Roman Empire and the Roman, army. And they didn't want to give the credit to the African to let them know that, the African had defeated the Europeans on European soil. Okay. So during the era of the Romans, you see that they had, the Christianity had occurred, and, the Romans created Christianity, the Greeks created Judaism. That's another lesson for another day, but we'll get into that. But you can see here the African influence in the church, okay, during the Roman era. And they were, popes and things that were African, during that time frame, and they were right side by side by the white European popes. And the African popes were venerated in all of the artwork that you notice here during that era. This is probably roughly around 320 AD, something to that effect. You're seeing that the Roman Catholic Church had been established and Christianity had been established. And we'll get into that in another video. All right. But you could tell right here the African paintings and structures that they had in place will show the status that the Africans had within the Catholic Church. Okay, so you can see right here the African popes being venerated, and honored by the white Europeans, in that catechism and in that church. You can see right there with the Pope hat. Now, the Africans were the first to be indoctrinated through Hellenization. All right. So when you hear these black Hebrew Israelites out there on the street corners, yelling and screaming, "We're the original Jews," and woo, 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 which is somewhat true. You know what I'm saying? But that what they won't tell you is that they were the first to be indoctrinated by the white European Greeks. Okay. So the white European Greeks infiltrated the African, and then they indoctrinated them with their own ideologies of a God, Yahweh, and they indoctrinated these Africans who were conquered. Okay, the conquered Africans who were conquered submitted to the Greek ideology, in that adapted the culture, and then went out and indoctrinated other Africans within the African society. You know what I'm saying? Doing the bidding of the Greeks. And then the Romans had continued that, Hellenization process with Christianity. They remixed it and changed it a little bit and added their own spin to it, and then the Africans adopted that religion and continued to spread it, as a part of their particular culture. Okay, so you can see the influence there. Now, going into the period and era of the Moors. All right, the Moors from Mauritania, which is northwest Africa. They were a very powerful, African presence there. They had an Islamic presence, the Moors. They were when the Islam era came about, roughly about 700 AD. The Moors in that region were indoctrinated with Islam, and they adopted that culture. A lot of these religions were adopted by, pressure or by force, from conquerors coming in to their region and land and forcing the people to adopt these religions and their way of life. Also, they had given them no other options, as far as like trade is concerned and commerce is concerned. So if you wanted to do trade and you wanted to have resources and stuff that you needed, food or clothing or whatever like that, and the people who held the resources were, in these Christian, religions or a part of these Islamic religions, and they would force the people to either convert, to their religion in order for them to trade with them, or they would starve them out or, or kill them or something to that effect. and then put that pressure on them in order for them to convert. So that's how a lot of these people had got indoctrinated with these religions. Okay, we'll get into that a much deeper in another video. But you see right here the Moors. Okay, the Moors were a very influential, part of Africa. They were right there in Mauritania, and the word Moor is, black in Latin. You know what I'm saying? So the Romans had moved in and conquered Mauritania. So you can go today to Mauritania and northern Africa, and it has a very Roman presence there. So the people are populated look like white Europeans because they came right over the Strait of Gibraltar, which is on the southern part of that, area, which is near Spain. Okay, when you're looking across the Mediterranean Sea. So about a 711 to 1492 AD, the Moors had ruled, Spain, and those Africans and went up and conquered that area and that region. They defeated the Romans and took that land. They took that land from the Romans in Spain, and they ruled for about 700 something years in that area, and they did a lot of great things. They constructed a lot of great structures, buildings and temples and churches and things of that nature, and they established themselves as a great and mighty culture. Now, the white Europeans in that era in Europe surrounding Spain, they were living like savages, during that time frame. They were very, indoctrinated with the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church, they were very dependent on the Catholic Church and everything that the Catholic Church had put out with the popes and things of that nature. They had pretty much conformed to, and then they followed everything that occurred. So one of the things that had happened, with the Catholic Church, they had mentioned to these, white Europeans that, once you were baptized, there was no reason for you to take a bath, no more, because you were cleansed, in washed, you know what I'm saying, with, this spirit of, of the church. So this baptism, after they had received it, these white Europeans were no longer taking baths. They wasn't cleaning themselves, which caused a large amount of death of their population. Okay, worse than the plague. And they were falling and dying left and right, so much so that the Moors had sympathy for them, and they went in and actually started teaching them stuff, how to bathe themselves, how to, get themselves clean. The Moors, the black African Moors, were teaching white people, white Europeans, how to clean themselves and bathe themselves and sanitize themselves because they were so nasty. You know what I'm saying? They were just nasty and filthy because they had this misconception from the church, the Catholic Church, that they no longer needed to bathe and take baths after they had been baptized, okay, into that Catholic religion. So they were walking around just nasty, stanking, you know what I'm saying? Just full of filth and dirt and all type of disease and everything they had. And they had all of this nastiness, and then the Moors, had sympathy and empathy for them because they're Africans. We have an empathy, we're empathetic people. We always feel sorry for other races of people and always want to help. And the Moors were no different. So the Moors went in and helped these Europeans, and they started teaching them everything, and started bathing them, and started taking care of them, and then showing them all type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You can see right there the bathing of these, white people. The Africans was bathing them, showing them this is how you take a bath and clean yourself and get yourself sanitized. But the Moors were a very royal, uh, powerful, structure in Spain. You know what I'm saying? They were royalty. They were sitting on the throne. They was kings and queens and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? They had monarchies and all that, everything that was in place and structure. You know what I'm saying? So other Europeans, the Catholic Church had reverence for these Moors. You know what I mean? And they listened to these Moors, and they got advice from the Moors, and the Moors was teaching them everything. And then they were double crossed. You can see right here the depiction of the Black Madonna. Okay, this is the Black Madonna and the child. All right, so this comes from all the way back Egypt. In Horus, you have Isis and Horus. That's the Greek and Roman version name. Is really Aset and Heru. Okay, so that's the African name for, the mother and child. All right, so the Roman Catholic Church had took the concept of the veneration of, Aset and Haru, the mother and child, and they use it and they came up with their own concept, but they kept it black because they knew black was the divinity. Okay, black is the divinity that they come through, and they were always pretty much pay reverence and homage to the black goddess. But years later, they changed that, over to a white European, statuette, and they start getting rid of all of the black statues to let people know that, hey, now the white man is in charge, the white man is in power. So we're going to change all of the imagery, all of the statues, all of the paintings, all of everything to white images to reflect this psychologically, get you to think and believe that they were the ones that were always in power from the very beginning, which is that a complete lie. Okay, it was the African. All right, and they knew that, and the elders, the ancient elders have knew who were pretty much in charge of the lands, who were in control of the lands, who had ruled those lands. And Europe was ruled by African people, so we already knew that. You know what I'm saying? But you could tell right here, these structures, these royal structures of the Moors, are all over Europe. You can go throughout Europe, you know what I'm saying? Sweden, Denmark. You can go down to Great Britain. You can see in Spain all of these statues of the Moors that are prevalent and still there today. The dark skin pigment. And they'll tell you, these are the actual first rulers of Europe during that era. So they were the ones who had actually ruled and brought civilization, had taught the white Europeans how, to bathe themselves and put them in a position of power and things of that nature. They wasn't, all over the over Europe. They were pretty much savages. They were living like savages. White Europeans were living like savages. You know what I'm saying? Just herders. And they was just very dependent on the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church in Rome was, dictating and ruling everything for them. But these, Moors, were pretty much in power in Spain, and they were Islamic until Ferdinand and Isabella came along. Okay, Ferdinand and Isabella was a part of the Roman Catholic Church, and they put them in power, and they had conquered, the Moors and took over their land in Spain, and then they put Ferdinand and Isabella on the throne. Okay, so these two, had wiped out and then started indoctrinating, and they started changing everything over from African, to white European. Okay, so all of the language, the structures, and everything that they stole, everything that the Moors had built, they just went in and start occupying that stuff. All of the churches, the buildings and structures that they had did, the Africans had built, the white Europeans came in and just took over. You know what I'm saying? Stole it all and started, you know, filling themselves up. And then they, depicted here, right here, you'll see these four, Moors that were captured, in the battle, and they have a statue commemorating that victory that they had over the Moors right there in the square. I can't remember what part of Europe it's in, but it's right in the middle where Ferdinand and Isabella's headquarters were. You know what I'm saying? In Spain. But one of the books you need to do and check out, you know what I'm saying, as far as getting your research is concerned, is Black Star, the African Presence in early Europe by the elder who had recently passed on and transitioned, Runoko Rashidi. I recommend this book highly. Go and purchase this book because you can get greater detail and knowledge from Runoko Rashidi, who is a disciple of Sheikh Atadiya. Okay, so you know that those two brothers had done extensive work in the field and knowledge about African history, and they have great knowledge about it. Another second book I recommend, The African Europeans by Olivet Otele. Okay, hopefully I didn't butcher her name, but black European author, I mean black, author, she wrote about the Africans in Europe. So I recommend going to get that book as well. All right. So that's it. All right, that's the lesson for the day, man. I hope you enjoyed that lesson, man. Black Europe. Yeah, that's right, man. You know what I'm saying? Look, we gave you a brief overview of the influence and some of the things that the African accomplished in Europe. So Go and check out those books if you want a deeper knowledge and understanding. You know what I'm saying? Go and get those books and read them for yourselves. I highly recommend you doing that. But dig, let me remind you, go over to maarifasar.com right now. This video is almost over. You know what I'm saying? We got 7 days left till Black History Month is over, and you still got a chance to go and take advantage of the sales that's going on right now. When you use the promo code BLK at checkout, you'll get 20% off all your purchases. Okay, 20% off using the promo code BLK at checkout. All right, dig. So you know what this is. This has been another Maarifa moment where knowledge has been reborn. So remember, the more you know, the more you'll grow, and the better off we all shall be. So until next time, I'll say love and light. Peace. Let's go. We made it. We made it. Live at Seneferu's Pyramid. Okay. Seneferu built this